Hello, this is the second video in our series How to Protect from Web Applications Hacking. In this part, we'll talk about how to do networking in Virtualbox using Kali on Windows 10. In our first video, we talked about how to install Oracle Virtualbox and how also to import several virtual machines. You can get back to this video by going to the first link in the description of this current video. In this video, we are going to talk about what's Oracle Virtualbox networking modes and how to do different networking options. Recall, in our first video, we have Windows 10 as our host. We installed Oracle Virtualbox as our hypervisor or coordinator between the host and the guests. We also imported two guest OSs. Both these guests were Linux Kali. So basically we have one host and two guests. Why we have chosen Linux Kali? Because this Linux distribution has all the tools needed for our penetration testing that we are going to use later on. We can use other Linux distributions, but in this case we need to manually add the tools one by one when needed. Most security professionals use Kali as their virtual machine. What we have done in our first video, we installed Oracle Virtualbox as our hypervisor and we installed two Linux Kali virtual machines. Remember that when you install Oracle Virtualbox, virtualization needs to be enabled in your machine. Just in case that Oracle Virtualbox installation didn't work with you, what you need to do is to go to your BIOS and enable virtualization. For example, my machine is HP Omen. Whenever I need to start my machine, I need to press the specific key that enabled me to get into BIOS and enable virtualization. To know what's the key that enables you to go to BIOS, write, for example, in any search engine, your machine type and how to get into BIOS. Usually you need to press either F10 or F12, and once you are inside the BIOS, you can enable virtualization to enable Virtualbox. Of course, sometimes this is not needed if virtualization was enabled by default. Here is our Virtualbox installation. Here we have 5 virtual machines. 3 of them were installed previously, and in the last video we installed 2 virtual machines. Remember that whenever we need to change configuration related to Oracle Virtualbox in general, we go to File, Preferences. We can see this dialog. Here we have several options related to Oracle Virtualbox in general. We don't need to change anything right now. On the other hand, if we choose a specific virtual machine, right click on that, Settings, we see a different dialog. This dialog is related to this specific virtual machine where we can change the configuration of different items related only to this specific virtual machine. One of the important items is network. In the network, we can change the network mode. The default one is not network address translation, but we can change the network mode to another mode based on our needs. This video is dedicated to discuss different network modes and how they behave. In the same window here, we can configure 4 different adapters. Actually, for each virtual machine, we can configure 8 different adapters, 4 of them from this interface, and the other 4 can be configured from VBox Manager. For the purpose of this video, we don't need to go to VBox Manager. What we can do, we need only to do it from this interface. So basically, each virtual machine can have up to 8 adapters. 4 can be configured from the interface and 4 from the VBox Manager. This is a typical home network. We have internet from our internet service provider to our gateway. Our gateway in this example is 192.168.10.1, and this gateway is providing the internet for other devices, for example our mobile devices or our desktop. For example, our PC in this scenario has 192.168.10.2 as IP address, and our mobile phone has 192.168.10.3 as the IP address, and the network range is 192.168.10 star. Here we have different network modes. Of course, we can choose the network mode that suits our needs. We have NAT, NAT network, a bridge adapter, internal network, and host-only adapter. NAT is the first networking mode. In this scenario, Virtualbox shields the virtual machine behind the host IP address. The host will act as a proxy. So in this case, every request initiated by the guest will go to the outside world as if it was initiated by the host IP address. To illustrate, in this scenario, we have a guest machine to the left-hand side, and we have Virtualbox NAT engine. The address of the guest machine will be translated to the host IP address, and this IP address will send the request to the outside world, so the outside world will not be aware of the existence of any guest machines. It will think that this request was initiated by the host adapter. Here, with some IP address allocated, the virtual machine, it has the IP address 10.0.2.15. So Virtualbox will send this request 10.0.2.15 to the gateway IP address for the Virtualbox, which is in this scenario 10.0.2.2. This request will be sent to the host adapter for the host OS. In this case, the IP address is 192.168.10.2, and any request that's sent to the outside world will appear as if it was initiated from the host 192.168.10.2. Now, the requests that are coming from any guest machine will appear as if they are some certain applications like Chrome, like Skype, or like any other application. They will not appear like they are a different machine. No, they will appear just like a simple application that's running on the host adapter. Here we have multiple NATs. We have 4 NATs in this scenario, and each NAT is shielded separately. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is no interaction between these NATs. The same scenario, whether it was single NAT or multiple NAT. Now, what are the features in this case? Acts from the outside network. So the outside network, the outside world cannot access the different guests. So there is no ping or no connection from the outside to the guests. The second feature, no networking between the host and VM. The host adapter will not be able to ping the guests, but the other way around is working. As we have seen in the first video, now the guest machines were able to ping the host, but the host is not able to ping the host machines. Network between VMs, different virtual machines, different guests cannot network with each other. Last one, access to external network on the net. Now, the guests, they can access the outside world. For example, from this guest, we can ping the host, and we can also ping the outside world. So these are the features of NAT, whether it was single NAT or multiple NAT. Let's try that. In Windows, IP config, so that I can know the IP address. The IP address for a host 192.168.140. In Oracle Virtualbox, I start this VM. To the login screen, the username is Kali, the password is Kali. I'm displaying the guest to the right hand side. I'm displaying the command prompt for the host to the left hand side. I'll go to the terminal, increase the font, Ctrl ++, sudo if config, so that I can know the IP address for the guest. It will ask for the password, Kali, the password. Now, the IP address for the guest 10.0.2.15, the IP address for the host 192.168.140. Let's check the connectivity between the host and the guest. First of all, from inside the guest, ping 192.168.140. We have a reply, so it's pingable. To stop that, Ctrl C. Let's try to ping an external host, for example google.com. Again, it's pingable, so the guest is able to ping the host and also to ping the outside world. Control C. Let's try the other way around. Now, from the host, ping 10 0 to 15. That's the IP address for the guest. Request timeout, which means the host was not able to reach the guest, and this is the normal behavior of NAT. Next network mode is NAT with port forwarding. It's very similar to NAT with an added feature called port forwarding. In this case, in the host, in our case, it's Windows 10, we have port 2281, that's in this example. In our guest, which is Linux Kali, we have guest port 22 or SSH. In Linux terminal, we can perform this command to make sure, port 22 is active and running. We need also a tool called Booty. Booty is a tool, and the link to install this tool is available in the description of this video. What are the steps? First of all, from Oracle Virtualbox, we can choose the concerned virtual machine, right-click Settings from the network. Now, the network mode is NAT. At the bottom, we can choose port forwarding. Then we can see this dialog. We can say, okay, port 2281 in the host in Windows is corresponding, can be mapped to the guest port 22. So I'm doing like kind of mapping 22 in the guest is corresponding to 2281 in the host. These steps can be performed inside Oracle Virtualbox. Then inside the virtual machine, I can perform this command to make sure what are the current active services. For example, I can see here now I'm checking on port 22. So port 22 is active and I'm listening to port 22. Again, this command from the virtual machine. Now, the last step in the host in Windows in our example, again, we have a tool called Booty. In Booty, I'm saying here now 127.0.0.1, that's the IP address for the host or the current machine. I'm listening to port 2281, so that whenever a message is sent to port 2281, it will be received by the Booty terminal. To illustrate the steps, now from the outside world, we have a message, for example, to IP address 192.168.10.2, and that's the host IP address, and it's directed, very important, to port 2281. Once this message is received by the host adapter, Booty is listening, and it knows that port 2281 in the host is corresponding to virtual machine 10.2.0.15 on port 22. So it will forward this message to that virtual machine. So in this case, we add a capability. This capability will enable external world to communicate with the guest. So this is something similar to NAT, but with an added feature. Ping will still not work. ICMP level 3 with no port number. This mode is called NAT network. How it differs from NAT? In this scenario, different VMs are connected to each other. In the previous scenario, each VM was inside a bubble and it cannot connect with other VMs. But in this scenario, we have one common NAT network and there's connectivity between different VMs. How to do that? In Virtualbox, from File Preferences, we need to create a new NAT network. Then we add each VM to that NAT network. The steps 1, 2, 3. First step, from File Preferences, choose Network, then create a new NAT network, give it a name, and choose the network mask so that you can decide how many devices can belong to this NAT network. Once you created this network with the name of your choice, then step number 3, choose any VM that you want to add to this NAT network, then right click on that VM network, Then change the network mode from NAT to NAT network and choose the name of that NAT network. Inside VirtualBox, we have two VMs. One of them is running. So first of all, we need to stop this machine. Show this machine. Then I need to power off because I need to change the network configuration. So in this case, I need to power off the running machines. Then File, Preferences, Network. I need to create a new network. Maybe I can change its name. I call it Home. It's my home network, or whatever name you wish to do. Then, after I establish my network, I'm going to select this VM, right-click, Settings, Network. Now, the current settings is NAT. I need to change that from NAT to NAT network. Then choose which NAT network I want to belong to. We have different NAT networks. I want to choose Home network. In this case, I'm adding this VM to Home network. I'll do the same for the second virtual machine. Network, NAT network, Home. I'll start the first VM. I'll start the second VM. Now the two VMs are displayed side by side. Kali, the same for the second VM. Kali. Then the terminal. Of course, maybe I need to increase the size. Sudo ifconfig. Just double checking the password. Now the IP address for this VM 10.0.2.15. I'll do the same for the second VM. Sudo ifconfig. Password is Kali. Now what's the IP address? Now it's different. 10.0.2.4. If you remember that in NAT mode, both virtual machines, because they were NAT mode, both of them got the same IP address. Now we're changing from NAT to NAT network. So this is the first IP address for the first VM, and this is the second IP address for the second VM. So different IP addresses are allocated to different machines. Let's check if we can connect the two machines together. Bing 10.0.2.4. It's bingable. Do the same on the other machine. Bing 10.0.2.15. It's also bingable. So the first VM can connect to the second VM, and the second VM can connect to the first VM. I can stop this by Ctrl C, again Ctrl C. Let me check if I can connect to the outside world. Google.com. Again, it's bingable. Can I connect to the host 192.168.140? Again. The next mode is a bridge adapter. In this case, the guest can directly access the network and the VMs are bingable. So in the previous scenarios, the guest was shielded by the host. Now the guest is outside the shield and it can directly access and could possibly harm the network. So in this case, I need to make sure from the source of the guest. But maybe it can contain harmful software. Have the gateway, for example, 192.168.10.1. We have, for example, the host adapter 10.2, and we have two virtual machines 10.3 and 10.4. Now the guests, they can be accessed from the outside network. We can have networking between the host and the VM. We can have some kind of networking between different VMs, and the VMs themselves, they can access the external network. From inside VirtualBox, I'll go to the first VM, Settings, network, I'll change the network mode to a bridge adapter and do the same for the second VM. Network mode, a bridge adapter. I will start the first VM, I'll start the second VM. Kali, I'll start the terminal. Sudo if config. The password is Kali. Now the IP address, it has now different format: 192.168.100.150. Let's check the second VM. Again, the terminal. Sudo if config Kali. The IP address 192.168.100.151. Let's check if the VMs can ping each other. So here, ping 192.168.100.150. So the second VM can ping the first one. Let's do the same. Check the second one. 192.168.100.151. So they can ping each other. I stop one of them. Control C. Let me check if I can ping the host. Ping 192.168.100.140. It's not 140, it's 40 actually. Yes, now it's pingable. Control C. The last scenario, I'll go to the host to check if I can ping the VMs. From the host, ping 192.168.100.150. So now the host also can access the VM. The next network mode is internal network. In this mode, VMs can talk to each other internally, so we have an internal network, but this network is isolated from the outside world, even from the host. So VMs cannot talk to the host, cannot talk to the outside world. Also the outside world and the host cannot talk to this network. Now, the next scenario is host-only network. It's very similar to the internal network, but the host is added also to the network. So here basically we have several VMs, and here we have the host adapter, and the host adapter will play dual role. So it will be exposed to the outside world, and at the same time it will have a different IP address so that it can communicate with other VMs. So basically this network consists of all VMs in addition to only the host. Now, what are the features of this network? No access from outside network. We can have access between hosts and VMs, and we can have networking between different VMs, but those VMs cannot access the outside world. The steps to perform that, here we choose from the preferences that Virtualbox host only Ethernet adapter, and it will be assigned an IP address by Oracle Virtualbox, in this case 192.168.56.1. And also in the control panel, if I go to Network and Sharing Center, I can see there's an adapter called Virtualbox host only network. Now I can change the adapter settings. Of course, this adapter is created by Virtualbox to act in the mode of host only adapter. When I right click on this adapter, then choose the properties, IP version 4 settings. In this case, I can see also the same IP address. So the same IP address appears twice, appears in the control panel and also appears in the Oracle Virtualbox. You can test this scenario. Now in this scenario, VMs can talk to each other, VMs can talk to the host, but there's no interaction with the outside world. To summarize, we have talked about different scenarios: NAT network, a bridge adapter, internal network, host only network. All these scenarios and networking modes are available in Oracle Virtualbox, and you can choose which scenario fits your needs. These are some of the needed softwares, and all these softwares are available at the bottom of this video in the description.